Hello, Namaskar. Welcome everybody to Nepali Gyan KB Knowledge TV. And today we are going to do book summary of one of the most popular books, Rich Dad Poor Dad. The author of this book is Robert Kiyosaki. And sit back, relax, grab your coffee, put your headphone on because this book contains 343 pages, and we will read this all page by page. So it's going to be a bit of your time. So let's make it productive together. Rich Dad Poor Dad. This is the update book from today's world and nine studies session sections. Rich Dad Poor Dad is a starting point for anyone looking to gain control over their financial future. US page 7. 1997, the book was published in 2022. The book celebrated its 25-year celebration. The author talks about why milestones are important. People of all cultures and countries celebrate milestones. We use them to measure time, mark progress, reflect on the lessons we have learned, and celebrate accomplishment. There are a way that we integrate past, present, and future, looking back at where we started, where we are today, and the promise of all the future. Milestones give meaning to a journey and help us to not only savor each small steps, but celebrate the leaps and bounds that catapult us forward. Whether it's a birthday or anniversary, the number of years of business has outlasted the competition, the date of an icon, or innovation that will change our lives. Milestones are a part of all we are and all that we will become. A quarter century has passed since Rich Dad Poor Dad was first published. 25 years, April 8, 1997. So many things in our world have changed. One thing that has not changed is the pressing need for the power of financial education. Money is still a mainstay of our lives, like it or not. And technology has brought both speed and innovation to the world of money. All the more reasons it seems to do all that we can to get smarter with our money, learn as much as we can, and take control of our financial futures. As the Rich Dad Company celebrates this milestone, I am humbled by the stories from around the world of people who have put the Rich Dad principles to work in their lives and who are sharing what they learned and achieved with their family and friends, their children and grandchildren. The lesson of Rich Dad, Poor Dad have stood the test of time. Although 25 years have passed since Rich Dad, Poor Dad was first published, you will find very little in the book itself has changed. We have done a few updates to the cover over the years and added some sidebars in 2020 inside notes at the 20 anniversary milestone. But that's about it because the lessons about money and principles of this Dad, Poor Dad haven't changed. That's important to point because, that out because it speaks to the fact that this book, often referred to as classic personal finance, has truly stood the test of time. New generations have found that its timeless wisdom and no sense lessons has can be applied to anyone's life, and I am grateful to all the parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, mentors and teachers, and thought leaders around the world who have shared copies of Rich Dad Poor Dad with those at this 25th anniversary edition. Rich Dad Poor Dad still ranked as the number one personal finance book of all the time. Its bestseller list around the world and consistently top Amazon bestseller list at number one in the category of personal finance, parenting, and investing. It has been translated into 38 languages and has sold more than 40 million copies around the world. The best-selling books by Robert Kiyosaki also is that Poor Dad, What the Rich Teach Their Kids About Money that the poor and middle class do not. Another book, Rich Dad Cash Flow Quarter Guide to Financial Freedom. Rich Dad Guiding to Investing. What the rich invest in the poor and the middle class do not. Rich Dad also have a book which has Rich Dad, Rich Kids Smart. Teach your child of money. It's Rich Dad Retire Young, Retire Rich. How to get rich instead. So this, along with this, he also has many other books which can be why A students work for C students. He also has a book, Why the Rich Are Getting Richer. What is the financial education really? Another book, Fake Money, Fake Teachers, Fake Assets. Now let's move on to page number 9. 8. Dedication. To parents everywhere of first child. Dedication to parents everywhere, a child first and most important teachers, and to all those who educate, influence, and lead by example. In this chapter, in this book, these are the content, the why milestones are important. We have already discussed about it. Dedication, 25 years milestones and highlights. Introduction. In page 9, we have introduction to Rich Dad Poor Dad. On chapter 1, the rich don't work for money. Chapter 2, why teach financial literacy. Chapter 3, mind your own business. Chapter 4, the history of taxes and the power of corporation. Chapter 5, the rich invent money. Chapter 6, learn to work. Don't work for money. Chapter 7, overcoming obstacles. Chapter 8, getting started. Chapter 9, still want more? Here are some do and don'ts. Final thought is number 1, 25 years milestone and insights. 5 years ago, when we reached our first major milestone, marking 20 years since Rich Dad Poor Dad was published, I wrote this word. Beatles released the Stack Paper Lonely Hearts Club Band album June 1, 1967. It was an intermediate, commercial, and critical success, spending 27 weeks at the top of the album chart in the UK and 15 weeks at number one in the United States. Time magazine declared the album a history of departure in the progress of music. It won 4 Grammy Awards in 1968 as well as Album of the Year, the first rock album ever to receive that honor. Rich Dad Poor Dad was released 20 years ago on my 50th birthday on April 8, 1997. Unlike the Beatles' story, the book was not an commercial immediate commercial success. It was not a critical success. In fact, the book release and the firestorm of criticism that followed was quite the opposite. Rich Dad Poor Dad was originally self-published because every book publisher we approached turned my book down. Few rejections that offer comment like, "You do not know what you're talking about." I learned that most publishers are more like my highly educated poor dad than my rich dad. Most publishers disagree with my rich dad lessons on money, as did my poor dad. 20 years today, in 1997, rich dad, poor dad was a warning book of lessons about the future. 20 years later, millions of people around the world are more aware of my rich dad warnings and his lessons on the future. 2020 insight, many have said that this lesson where prophetic predictions come true. Few of those lessons are rich dad number one lesson. The rich don't work for money. The rich don't work for money. 20 years ago, a few publishers turned my book down because they did not agree with Rich Dad's number one lesson today. People are more aware of growing divide between the rich and everyone else. Between 1993 and 2010, over 50% of the increase in the national income in the United States went to the wealthiest 1%. Since then, things have only gotten worse. Economists at the University of California found that 95% of the income gains between the year 2009 and 2012 also went to the wealthiest 1%. The lesson: the increase in income are going to entrepreneurs and investors, not to employees, not to the people who work for money. Risk that lesson. Saviors are losers. 20 years ago, most publishers vehemently disagreed with the lesson from Rich Dad. For the poor and middle class, saving money is a religion, financial salvation from poverty, and protection from the cruel world. For many people, calling savers losers is like taking God's name in vain. The lesson, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Take a look at the chart of 120 years of Dow Jones Industrial Average, and you'll see why and how savers become losers. The chart shows there have been three massive stock market crashes in the first 10 years of this new century. The chart below illustrates these three crashes. The first crash was the dot-com crash around the year 2000. The second and the third crashes were the real estate crash of 2007, followed by the banking crash of 2008. The giant crash of 1929. When you compare the first three crashes of the 21st century to giant crash of 1929, you gain a perspective of how truly giant the first three crashes of this century was. Printing money. The chart below shows that after each crash, the US government and the Federal Reserve Bank began printing money, saving the rich. Between the year 2000 to 2016, in the name of saving the economy, banks of the world kept cutting interest rates and printing money. Why? Our leaders want us to believe they were saving the world. In reality, the rich were saving themselves and threw the poor and the middle class under the bus. Today, interest rates in many countries are below zero, which is why savers are losers. The biggest losers are the poor and middle class. Poor who work for money is simple. With that lesson, your house is not an asset. 20 years ago in 1997, every public service in every section criticized this definition that your house is not an asset. 10 years later, in 2007, when subprime borrowers began to default on their subprime mortgages, world real estate bubble burst and millions of homeowners found out that the truth is that the lesson the hard way. Their house was not an asset. The real problem. Most people didn't know what the real estate crash was not really a real estate crash. Poor people did not cause the real estate crash. The rich caused the real estate crash. The rich created financially engineered products so that derivatives products were offered as or weapons of mass destruction. When the financial weapons of the mass destruction started to explode, the real estate market crashed and borrowers were left. In 2007, there was an estimated of $700 trillion in financial derivatives. Today, it is estimated there are 1.2 quarter trillion in financial derivatives. In other words, the real problem has gotten bigger and better. With that list, why the rich pay less in taxes? 20 years ago, a few publishers criticized rich dad poor dad for disclosing how and why the rich pay less in taxes. One stated that the lesson was illegal. 10 years later, in 2007, President Barack Obama was running for re-election against former government Mitt Romney. When it was disclosed that President Obama paid approximately 30% of his income in taxes, and Governor Romney paid less than 30% in taxes, Mitt Romney began the downhill slide that would cost him election taxes again, were a formal point in 2006 U.S. presidential election. Rather than find out how many people like Mitt Romney, the president, were so less in tax legally, poor and middle class get angry. While President Trump promised to reduce taxes for the poor and middle class, the reality is the rich will always pay less in tax. The rich, the reason the rich pay less in taxes goes back to that lesson number one. The rich don't work for money. As long as a person works for money, they will pay taxes. Even the presidential candidate Hillary Clinton was promising to raise the taxes for rich. She was promising to raise the taxes of those with high incomes, people like doctors, actors, and lawyers. Years ago, although rich dad, poor dad was not an immediate success like the previous dad did make the New York Times bestseller list by the year 2000 and stayed on the top of the list nearly 7 years. Also in the year 2000, Oprah Winfrey called was an opera for the entire hour. And as they say, the rest is history. Rich Dad Poor Dad has become the number one personal finance book in history, with the sales of the Rich Dad series of books estimated at nearly 40 million copies worldwide. As there really a Rich Dad? Was there really a Rich Dad? Millions have asked, was there really a Rich Dad? Answer the question. You can listen to Rich Dad's son, Mike. When he was a guest on the Rich Dad radio show, you can listen to the program going to richdad.com. Rich Dad had graduated Rich Dad was written as simply as possible so that almost everybody could understand my Rich Dad lesson. Those who want to learn more as part of 20-year celebration, Rich Dad has wrote why the rich are getting richer. What is financial education really? Why the rich are getting richer goes into the greater, more specific detail of what rich really taught their son and me when it came to money and investing. Why are rich? Why the rich are getting richer? Is rich dad poor dad for graduate student? It's graduate student for rich dad student. A warning, an invitation. While I did my best to keep why the rich are getting richer as simple as possible, what the really rich do is not easy or easy to explain. What the rich really do requires real financial education not taught in our schools. I suggest reading Rich Dad Poor Dad first, then, if you want to learn more why the rich are getting richer, maybe for you. Thank you for 25 years to all the readers, past, present, and future. All of us, the Rich Dad community, says thank you for amazing 25 years. It's our mission to elevate the financial well being of humanity, and the starts with one and one person at a time. So we have completed the page 8 now. Space 9, introduction, rich dad, poor dad. Having two dads offered me the choice of contrasting point of view, one of a rich man and one of a poor man. I had two fathers, a rich one and a poor one. One was highly educated and intelligent. He had a PhD and completed 4 years of undergraduate work in less than 2 years. He then went on to Stanford University, the University of Chicago, and Northwestern University to do his advanced studies, all on full financial scholarship. The other father never finished the eighth grade. Both men were successful in their careers, working hard all their lives. Both earned substantial income, yet one always struggles financially. The other would become one of the most richest men in Hawaii. One died having one died leaving ten of million of dollars to his family, charities, and his church. The other left bills to be paid when he died. Both men were strong, charismatic, and influential. Both men offered me advice, but they did not advise the same thing. Both men believed strongly in education, but did not recommend the same course of study. If I had only one dad, I would have to accept or reject his advice. Having two dads offered me the choice of contrasting point of view, one of a rich man and one of a poor man. Instead of simply accepting or rejecting one or the other, I found myself thinking more, comparing, and then choosing for myself. The problem was that the rich man was not rich yet, and the poor man was not poor yet. Both were just starting out on their careers, and both were struggling with money and families. But they never had, but they had very different points of view about money. For example, one that would say the love of money is the root of all evil. The other that would say the lack of money is the root of all the evil. As a young boy, having two strong fathers both influencing me was difficult. I wanted to be a good son and listen, but the two fathers did not say the same thing. The contrast in their point of view, particularly about money, was so extreme that I grew curious and intrigued. I began to start thinking for long period of time about what each was saying. Much of my private time was spent reflecting, asking myself questions such as, why does he say that? And then asking the same question of the other that statement. It would have been much easier to say, yeah, he's right. I agree with that. Or simply reject the point or view by saying the old man doesn't know what he's talking about. Instead, having two dads whom I loved forced me to think and ultimately choose a way of thinking for myself. As a progress, choosing for myself turned out to be much valuable in the long run than simply accepting or rejecting a single point of view. One of the reasons the rich gets richer, the poor gets poorer, and the middle class struggle in the debt is that the subject of money is taught at home, not in school. Most of us learn about money from our parents. So, what can poor parents tell their children about money? They simply say, stay in school and study hard. The child may graduate with excellent grades, but with a poor person's financial programming and mindset. Sadly, money is not taught in schools. Schools focus on scholastic and professional skills, but not on financial skills. This explains why smart bankers, doctors, and accountants who earn excellent grades may struggle financially all of their lives. Our staging national debt is due in large part to highly educated politicians and governmental officials making financial decisions with little or no training in the subject of money. Today, I often wonder what will happen when we have millions of people who need financial and medical assistance. They will be dependent upon their families or the government for financial support. What will happen when Medicare and Social Security run out of money? How will a nation survive if teaching children about money continues to be left to parents, most of whom will be or already are poor? Because I had two influential fathers, I learned from both of them. I had to think about each dad advice. And in doing so, I gained valuable insight with the power and effect of one thoughts on another life. For example, one that has habit of saying, I can't afford it. The others that forbade those words to be used, he instead asks, how can I afford it? One is a statement, and other is a question. One lets you off and the hook, and the other forces you to think. My soon to be rich dad would explain that by automatically saying the word I can't afford it, your brain stop working. By asking the question how can I afford it, your brain is put to work. He did not mean that you should buy everything you want. He was fanatical about exercising your mind, the most powerful computer in the world. He would say, my brain gets stronger every day because I exercise it. The stronger it gets, the more money I can make. He believed that automatically saying I can't afford it was a sign of mental laziness. Although both dad worked hard, I noticed that one dad had a habit of putting his brain to sleep when it came to finances, and the other had a habit of exercising his brain. The long term result was that one dad grew stronger financially and the other dad grew weaker. It is not much different from a person who goes to the gym to exercise on a regular basis versus someone who sits on the couch watching television. Proper physical exercise increases your chances for health, and proper mental exercises increase your chances for wealth. My two dad had opposing attitudes about my two dad had opposing attitudes and that affected the way they thought. One dad thought the rich should pay more in taxes to take care of those less fortunate. The other said taxes punish those who produce and reward those who don't produce. One dad recommended study hard so you can find a good company to work for. The other recommended study hard so you can find a good company to buy. One dad said, the reason I'm not rich is because I have your kids. The other said, the reason I must be rich is because I have your kids. One encouraged talking about money and business at the dinner table, while the other forbade the subject of money to be discussed over a meal. One encouraged talking about money and business at a dinner table, while other forbade the subject of money to be discussed over a meal. One said, when it comes to money, play it safe. Don't take risks. The other said, learn to manage risks. One believed our home is our largest investment and our greatest asset. The other believed my house is a liability. And if your house is your largest investment, you are in trouble. Let's read it again. One believed our home is our largest investment and our greatest asset. The other believed my house is a liability. And if your house is your largest investment, you are in trouble. Both that paid their bills on time, yet one paid his bills first while the other paid his bill last. 25 years later, your house is still not an asset. The 2008 housing market crash was a clear message that your personal residence is not an asset. Not only does it not put money in your pocket, but we cannot count on the fact that it will go up in value. Today, many cities are seeing sky high property values. Others are experiencing just the opposite. Your house can be an asset if you realize a profit when you sell it. One that believed in a company or the government taking care of you and your needs. He was always concerned about pay raises, retirement plans, medical benefits, sick leave, vacation days, and other perks. He was impressed with two of his uncles who joined the military and earned a retirement and entitled package for life after 20 years of active service. He loved the idea of medical benefit and PX privilege and military provide its retires. He also loved the tenure system available through the university. The idea of good job protection for life and job benefits seemed more important at time than the job. He would often say, I have worked hard for the government and I am entitled to this benefit. The author believed in total financial self reliance. He spoke out against the entitlement mentality and how it created weak and financially needed people. He was empathic about being financially competent. One that struggled to save few dollars, the other created investment, one that taught me how to write an impressive resume so I could find a good job, the other taught me how to write strong business and financial plans so I could create jobs. Being a product of two strong dads allowed me the luxury of observing this effect different through habits on the one life. I noticed that people really do save their lives through their thoughts. For example, my poor dad always said, I will never be rich, and the prophecy became reality. My rich dad, on the other hand, always referred to himself as rich. He would say things like, I am a rich man, and a rich people do not do this, even when he was a flat broke after a major financial setback. He continued to refer himself as a rich man. He would cover himself by saying, there is a difference between poor and being broke. Broke is temporary, poor is eternal. My poor dad would say, I am not interested in money, or money doesn't matter. My rich dad always said, money is power. The power of our thoughts may be measured or appreciated, but it became obvious to me as a young boy that it was important to be aware of my thought and how I expressed myself. I noticed that the poor that was poor, not because of the amount of the money he has earned, which was significant, but because of the thoughts and actions. As a young boy having two fathers, I became accurately aware of being careful about which thought I choose to adopt as my own. Should I listen to my rich dad or to my poor dad? Although both men had tremendous respect for education and learning, they disagreed about what they thought was important to learn. One warned me to study hard, earn a degree, and get a good job to earn money. He wanted me to study to become a professional and attorney or an accountant and to go to a business school for my MBA. The other encouraged me to study, to be rich, to understand how money works, and to learn how to have it work for me. I don't work for money, were words he would repeat over and over. Money works for me. At the age of 9, I decided to listen to and learn from my rich dad about money. In doing so, I choose not to listen to my rich dad. I choose not to listen to my poor dad, even though he was the one with all the college degree. A lesson from Robert Frost. Robert Frost is my favorite poet. Love, although I love many of his poems, my favorite is The Road Not Taken. I use it lesson almost daily. The road not taken. Two roads diverge into a yellow wood. Once again, the road not taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. And sorry, I could not travel both. And B1 traveled long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the underground, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was crassy and wanted wear. Though as for the passing there, had worn them really about the same, and both the morning equally lay in leaves no step had tore red and black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how many leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads differed in a wood, and I took one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And that has made all the difference. Over the years, I have often reflected upon Robert's poem, choosing not to listen to my highly educated dad advice and attitude about money was a painful decision, but it was a decision that shaped the rest of my life. Once I made up my mind about whom to listen, my educated my education about money began. My rich dad taught me over a period of 30 years until I was 39 years. He stopped once he realized that I knew and fully understood what he'd been trying to dump into my often thick skull. Money is one form of power, but what is more powerful is financial education. Money comes and goes, but if you have the education about how money works, you gain power over it and can being building wealth. The reason positive thinking alone does not work is because most people went to school and never learn how money works. So they spend their lives working for money. Because I was only 9 years old when I started, the lesson my rich dad taught me were very simple, and when it all was all said and done, there were only six main lessons repeated over 30 years. This book is about those six lessons put simply as possible, just as simply as my rich dad put forth those lessons to me. Those lessons are meant not to be answered, but guideposts that will assign you and your children and your families to grow wealthier no matter what happens in a world of increasing change and uncertainty. So, guys, thank you for listening. This is chapter 1 from page 1 to 18. So, we will uh, start the chapter 1, the page 19, next week. So, if you want to join, keep listening. Thank you.